Hey everyone, welcome to the Lee-Chandler podcast. I'm Leland Baptist, and of course, with me I have our great co-host Hank Hunt. How you doing, Hank?
Hey, I'm doing great, Leland.
Awesome, awesome. And we have an amazing guest with us here today, Mr. David Jones, who is a financial professional. How are you doing, David?
Do great yourself. Leland, Hank, it's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the
Absolutely,
invitation.
sir.
Thank
All right.
We're gonna
Now,
have fun today.
we are. For anyone who's listening, who's wondering, wow, what's going to happen today? Here's the deal. A lot of times when we're helping people with different things, they have questions that Hank and I don't have either the qualification, the license, or the depth to do such. And so the beauty with it is through networking, talking with people who have those licenses, right, and those qualifications. And so that's why we have David with us here today. And so we're just going to basically dive right into it. So if you're listening, make sure you have pen and paper, take notes, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, cool. So Hank, you can go ahead and start first then.
Well, David, I think I wore myself out on the on the front end of this. But one of the things that I find is, and I think I can use myself as an example. Some years ago, my wife is an OBGYN by profession, and I was a senior military guy. And we had just gotten married, and we didn't really have a financial planner. We had savings accounts, we had checking accounts, and we were doing well, and we knew that we were going to be that we wanted to have a family. So what we wanted to do was to start to plan, start to structure whatever it is that we were going to do later on in life. And we didn't know where to go. Okay. There was no one that we could go to. So I'm saying that, David, it's how would someone find an organization or an individual like you in today's environment?
That's a good question. We advertise our services through TV, other social media, for instance, as well as this even sometimes in certain magazines or other periodicals.
Okay.
So that's an excellent way that you can actually find us. Sometimes what happens is that some people don't really know that they need you. Sometimes until it's too late.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's like, for instance, one of the products that we offer to our clients is actually life insurance. Some people assume that it's just a death benefit, but it's actually a benefit that you can actually use while you're still alive, because there is such an element as known as permanent life insurance or cash value life insurance, which as you pay your premiums, you can accumulate a dividend or cash value that you can take out of the policy or you can borrow against the policy.
Okay.
This is a way that an individual can actually end up becoming their own bank. However, what happens with actually starting a family is we lean on advice of other people who've done it before. And don't get me wrong, whatever worked for them in their situation worked for them, but you're not like everybody else.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, for instance, several years ago, most people had a pension and Social Security when they retired. Now, companies and other organizations are getting out of the pension business and putting their employees in 401k plans.
Yep.
So it's another thing to really know which plan to pick and really how much do you need to contribute and really how the match works with that. These are things that really we don't even teach our young people in school now. Financial literacy is something that's missing really from the curriculum.
Yeah.
A lot of high schools.
Dave, do you find that because financial literacy is something that's not really taught, which means to me then that people don't realize that they need it, they don't know what's available that's out there, and by the time they come to an organization, to an individual such as yourself, they're already behind the power curve or the 8 ball?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. It's almost like someone, for instance, who needs heart surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, an individual is not everyone, but sometimes your health habits or your lifestyle can determine the condition of your health in the future. Maybe, for instance, instead of smoking or eating at McDonald's every day for lunch for like the last 25 years, you spend some time actually consuming some fruits, vegetables, or other nutritional products. You may not necessarily need a cardiologist.
Wow. Wow.
So it helps if, in other words, that people say what you don't know can't hurt you, but actually it's really the opposite. What you don't know will usually hurt you,
Or kill you.
Kill
or
you.
kill you.
Okay.
That's good.
So David, and excuse my terminology, I have a tendency to bastardize stuff sometimes, but in the financial services industry, what are some of the services that you provide or your organization provide to an individual under the umbrella of financial services?
One thing we can actually do is you do planning, which actually looks at an individual's household and help the individual actually set up goals so they can actually become more financially sufficient and actually be better prepared for retirement. In other words, instead of having to find other part-time work in retirement, person can actually retire and be able to do some of the things they want to do when they retire.
Awesome.
So a lot of it has to do with really an individual painting a picture of what they want the retirement to really be like.
What retirement age are you focusing on today? Because when my parents came along, it was 60, 62, so is it 65? Is it 70, 70? What's the age, or is it dependent upon the individual?
It depends upon the individual.
Okay.
This is not one size does not fit all, definitely.
Okay.
It's almost like buying a suit. If I had suits in a store that were all 42 longs, I would only have customers who had 42 longs. But the thing is that we have products that are actually tailored towards our clients.
Yeah.
If you want more clients, you got to have more different sizes, longs and shorts and regulars.
Exactly.
Within 42s.
Exactly.
Steve Harvey suit.
Options.
Steve Harvey suits, huh?
Exactly. There you go.
Hey, David, you mentioned a lot of great things. One was environment. The other one reference to just retirement in general. And what we've seen is that some higher earners, maybe like physicians, don't necessarily retire. Is that what you've seen? Is it easier for people who have higher income, or is it easier for those with lower income?
That's a good question. And again, I hate to say this, it depends on the individual. Because there are some people who actually continue to work into their 70s and they're very well off financially.
Watch it.
But then again, if you're still working, what's that?
I said, watch it. I'm deep into my 70s.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but there's some people actually who continue to be part of the workforce even well into their 70s, only because what they feel they're doing is not even work at all. It's something they enjoy doing.
That's good. Okay.
Well, okay.
So the question is,
yes, that's a good point, because I enjoy hanging out with Leland, and so I appreciate that. Do you find that with most people, the problem of life is because of two reasons? They either act without thinking, or they keep thinking without acting, knowing that they need to do something, and they keep trying to figure out what they should do rather than come to someone like you?
Yeah, I think it's some of both of those things, because I remember something my mother always tells me, and I had to keep reminding myself of this. There are exceptions to this, but people generally, I do believe, have the best intentions. Sometimes we really don't know what to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that being said, how do you get them from, well, Mr. Jones, I know I need to do something, but I don't know what to do. What would you recommend? What would you suggest?
That's a good question. We have to take a look at really your household, your budget.
Okay. Goes back to the
budget.
Okay.
And then if a budget is something that you don't have, then that's something that we need to create. to help you
Hmm.
create.
So
That's good.
it's like I want to have a Benz 600 or an AMG, but I can't even afford a 10-year-old Hyundai.
Well, well, Hank, I don't know about that one because these car dealers, they'll find a way to get you that car.
I
Okay.
know I'm payments for the next 50 years, but yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah.
It's not a good
Oh
analogy.
yeah.
But, I was trying to come up with a good analogy, but I guess I heard it said something like a a a, a champagne taste and a beer budget, a beer budget and champagne taste, or something like that. They want more than they can afford. So how do you snap them back to reality?
Absolutely. That's a good question. That's very challenging to do simply because people are going to want what they want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One way you can actually do this is actually take a look at a budget.
It goes back to
In other
budget.
words, let's show you this is how much you make.
Mm-hmm.
You want so much money to going towards rent, so much money going towards food, so much money going towards your transportation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
So we have to find really what are the opportunity costs. Because maybe if we want to live in a certain area, we may not be able to have the base model E-Class Mercedes Benz, but maybe we can have the fully equipped Honda Accord.
I love the
or
Honda.
reliable transportation for right now.
Or reliable transportation.
Right.
Because
Okay.
because the thing is, once you realize what your values are, you have to understand that no matter how much money we make, there's definitely going to be a limit to what we can actually afford. And afford is actually a very operative word
Mm-hmm.
because you can get approved for
Uh-oh.
more cars that you can actually quote unquote even afford.
You didn't go there, did you? Because they're those that will work out a deal that you can drive away with it
There you go.
or had the keys to it, and now you become a slave of your possession.
Exactly. In other words, what's happened is that you can drive away with it, but the thing is, can you keep it?
Drive it back in a month.
No.
Exactly. Can
They're
you keep it?
gonna send the tow truck after you. That's what it is.
Exactly. And I've actually worked in the car industry before,
Really?
and I've seen that happen to people.
Oh wow.
Trying
I've
to keep
seen
up with the Joneses.
situations where individuals get automobiles they can't afford and they try to trade them in. And what happens is they find out they're really $6,000, some cases upside down, found someone as low as $12,000 upside down on a vehicle.
Wow.
Because it's something that happens. It does. Because again, at the time we're making the purchase, we're actually looking at the shiny object and we think it's beautiful. And
Hey,
that's really it's got us hooked.
David,
So what I'm hearing is that people shouldn't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect situation or the ideal situation, but they just need to take wherever they are, whatever that situation is, whatever that moment is, and they need to make it perfect as best as they possibly can. And then from there, continue to grow. Is that sort of kind of what you're saying, Dave?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because in other words, we need to do the best with really what we have.
Okay.
In other words, we need to drive that Honda Accord like it's our S-Class Mercedes-Benz.
Or catch Metro.
Oh yeah, or Indigo.
Yeah.
and
I say that jokingly, but I'm serious. Hey, pay that dollar to get from point A to point B until you can afford a car payment. But it's not the car payment. Now you got insurance and some other stuff you got. So people don't understand a lot of the ancillary costs or the additional costs for making some of those decisions on trinkets. Because I would imagine that if they came to you and you help them to create a plan, it would be, I'm generalizing, would it be a set amount of money per month for whatever the product is or the plan that plan calls for? How does that work?
Well, it has to be. Because
Okay.
here's the thing, it has to be on budget, it has to be something that basically the client can do. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
other words, you have to be able to actually to live.
Mm.
So you've
Mhm.
got to find something actually that's going to work for the individual. This is definitely never one size fits all. And also another thing too is we're no longer a country where someone works. It happens periodically, don't get me wrong, that someone works 30 years for one employer.
Right. Yeah. It's rare.
There's a chance that you might have, I've seen figures as high as 6 different positions or employees in your lifetime.
Hmm.
I think it's higher than that
Yeah.
for
Oh,
for
yeah.
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
generation.
I think
Yeah.
3 to 5 years and they're gone.
Absolutely, absolutely,
It's
absolutely. So
so.
in other words, what I am saying is that the loyalty really has to start in the home.
Ah.
That's where loyalty starts. And if you're loyal to yourself, that means that you're going to actually do the best that you can with whatever treasures that you do have,
Praise God.
and your time as well.
Mm, 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 mm.
So David, you basically touched on when someone should invest, but for those who are listening, can you tell them whether or not everyone should invest?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I would ask person to answer this question. What are you losing if you don't invest? Or what could you possibly be losing if you don't invest?
Mhm, mhm.
One way that someone can start investing right now, as if they're working with an employer who actually offers some type of 401k or retirement savings account, is to start making a contribution.
Yeah.
That's when we can actually start.
Yeah.
And then periodically revisit whatever contribution you're making per year and seeing how much more you can contribute until you actually max out.
Hmm, that's good.
And actually see how well your plan is going to fund what you want to do in the future whenever you decide to retire.
Hmm.
And always have something as a backup plan.
Yeah.
There's an acronym we use for life insurance for life. The L stands for liabilities, covers your liabilities in case something happens to you. The I stands for income. Replaces the income that's going to be lost because you're no longer alive. F covers final expenses.
Mm.
And E, the last one, covers education for your kids if you have any.
Mm, mm,
Wow.
mm.
So in
Whew.
other words, we take the word life and we actually use that to cover some of the things that we do in this game that we call life.
Mm, mm, mm.
Cover those things.
That was sweet.
Yeah. And
And
David, you mentioned a backup, right? And you mentioned life. And what do you say to someone that is saying, well, David, things have been tough because of COVID-19.
Mm, mm.
things have been.
Yeah. What have you seen as far as impact? And then also, what should people do in the future?
We've actually seen more business as a firm during COVID-19, believe it or not, more transactions. I think if anything COVID-19 has taught us is that something like this, hope it never happens again, but it could.
Mhm, mhm.
And it even makes us question, I think, how are we addressing the what ifs that could happen in our lives.
Would you
I
say
think it's a, yeah.
not if, but when?
What was that?
I said not necessarily if, but when, but when?
When? That's true. These things are going to happen. I mean, the thing is that I'm very glad that I'm not saying COVID's coming to an end, but I think it's becoming a little bit more manageable for some people.
Mm,
And I do realize that there are people who are still feeling the impact from COVID and are going to feel it for the years to come.
Mm.
So that would be a good reason to sit down and have a conversation with someone about your finances. I mean, there's no better time than the present because again, we're going to need to actually put our heads together and to find out what are some strategies that we're going to use to actually rebuild, come out of this situation, hopefully stronger than we ever were before.
David, if for those who are listening to this podcast who may not have considered a financial plan to this date, how much would it cost if I were one of those individuals, I were to get on your calendar and come and sit down and talk to you? Is there a fee on the front end for just having a conversation with you?
There's no charge.
No. Oh, okay. Okay.
There's no charge at all. Because the
So
idea is
actually
that
be for somebody to come see you.
exactly, there's no charge.
Okay, sir.
Because the idea is to have an initial meeting to find out really what someone's situation is. Because you got to have the conversation first.
Okay. Okay.
And there are a lot of things that people can do right now to really, I would say to get ready for the future. If you don't have a budget now, put together a budget. Know what's coming out of your house and in your house every single month.
Mm-hmm. And then look at why you're making certain expenditures. Are they really necessary, or you're just trying to hobnob?
Absolutely. In other words, are we trying to keep up with the Joneses, and excuse the expression?
David Jones. David Jones in particular, you know.
You said what? You said present party excluded?
There you go. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or what are we doing? In other words,
and why are we doing it?
Why are we doing it? In other words, if you don't have a plan for your money will have a plan for you. And you may not like where your money's going.
Can you say that again, please?
If you don't have a plan for your money will have a plan for you, and you may not like where your money's going.
I like that. That was emphatic. That was emphatic.
That's a quote card right there.
Now, David, there are people that'll come to you for financial planning, and they may be asking about Bitcoin or real estate. Have you encountered any of those individuals? And not necessarily what you say, but how might you help me if I were to come to you and saying, hey, I'm interested in Bitcoin, or I'm interested in real estate as part of my financial plan?
That's a good question. What I would do is I would refer them to someone else who has a gift and has a passion for that area. Because don't get me wrong, I think real estate is wonderful, especially now, simply because, the thing about land is this: land can typically only appreciate. Because the thing is, you cannot make more land. You can make more automobiles.
That's another quote.
Yeah. You can make more clothes, okay? Yes. But you cannot make more land.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. So and for Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, I would advise someone to talk with someone who is an expert in that. Yeah. In other words, I'm not here to endorse it. I'm not here to not endorse it at all.
Okay.
Because again, people have different strategies, different ways, different goals. So the thing is, you've got to find something that actually works for you and your household.
Right. That you're comfortable
with. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to sleep at night with whatever you do.
A few weeks ago.
Or you'll sleep like a baby, wake up every 3 hours, cry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So David, speaking of comfort, right? What do you say to someone who says, David, I'm just not comfortable yet to invest. I don't feel comfortable in investing.
That's interesting because everyone has a risk tolerance. We have to define really what that is. That's first and foremost. And also to understand what investment is actually risk. Because here's the thing, people take risk every single day.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you take a risk getting into a car and driving somewhere.
No, just getting up.
You take a risk. Absolutely. There are risks that we take every single day. And we don't even give it a second thought.
No, you're right.
I mean, I had a conversation this morning with someone who doesn't like to fly or is a drive.
Mm-hmm.
You have more automobile accidents, you have plane crashes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about it though.
I know. David, do you find that a lot of people become comfortable in their discomfort, meaning they are reluctant to do, they have the capacity and the ability to change their lives, but for whatever reason they won't. Okay. And
it happens.
Or have you encountered someone who came in and for assistance, but then tried to tell you your business?
It happens all the time.
Someplace? I'm sorry.
It happens.
And what do you do? And what do you do for somebody like that?
What I do is I listen.
Oh, okay.
And
I show them the door. You're a better man than I.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there are some people really who are going to do what they want to do, and that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And it helps me to listen because that's where I learn too as well.
Okay. You are a wise man, sir. I appreciate
it. I want to be. I really want to be. It's a daily process.
Well, you know, as we were saying earlier, sometimes people feel that because they're an expert in a field, they're experts in all fields, and those are the people that get everybody else in trouble. And when you're saying that, hey, if someone comes to you with a particular need or an interest, you farm it out. So I applaud you for that. I really, really do. That's I got goosebumps just thinking of somebody who is professional enough, competent enough, ethical enough to say, hey, I'm not the one that can help you. However, I know somebody. I got a friend, I got a friend, or I got a colleague, or I got somebody. So, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like a podiatrist is a doctor, right?
Yes.
Don't but you're doing a podiatrist doing open heart surgery.
Unless you want to die.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. And a podiatrist will probably more than likely will tell you that's not my specialty, but let's find someone who has that specialty.
Right.
Now, you know, again, I'm telling if you grew up when I grew up, a doctor, you know, a doctor was a doctor. They didn't care that you'd have them pulling your teeth. But today, please don't be me. Maybe that's why I'm the way I am today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's almost just like attorneys. I mean, you might have someone's a tax attorney, but you might have someone say, "Oh, my cousin's an attorney. Call them if you got arrested." And they might say, "Well, I'm just a tax attorney."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you seem to think if you're an attorney, you should be able to do everything.
And that is going back to something you said earlier, is having the right people to help you to do the right things for you.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all about, I think, the team concept. And that was Leland mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Because if you look at anyone who's ever been successful, and I think the person we talked about was Irvin Magic Johnson. Mm-hmm. He had a team.
Still
he was smart enough to put the right kinds of people together in the right places to do what he's doing currently.
But I think it was Zig Ziglar to say, and I might be, the quote is correct, but whomever it was, it says, if you put all your eggs in one basket, watch the basket. Now, see, we grew up in saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Okay? But the smart guy says, if you put it all in one basket, watch the basket. So I mean, no matter who it is, you got to watch your stuff. You can't trust people explicitly and implicitly with things that are your responsibility.
That's true. That's true.
You can't come back and blame them and say, well, Mr. Jones, you said, didn't you read the statements that you get every month or quarterly or whenever, you know? Yeah, anyway.
And David, going back to Irvin Magic Johnson, it's important to have a team. And a lot of times people want to go about everything on their own. And what have you noticed between those who choose to have a team and those who choose to do everything on their own?
Mm, mm, mm.
That's a good question. I've seen situations where people actually might do well, at least in their mind, when they could have done better. But the problem is they'll never even know because they never gave the process a chance. It's almost like the expression is you get what you pay for. I really do believe that.
That's good.
That is good. I mean, it's like, that's when you just have to sort of kind of shut your mouth.
Absolutely. I mean, we've made it more difficult now, and it's been done on purpose. There was a time that you could actually work in your own automobile, do your own tune-up. But now vehicles have computer modules, all kinds of chips. And even the work on cars now, it's really continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in my business. It's always continuing education. The systems change, rules change, laws change, legislation changes. So you have to actually stay up on it. Now, you could actually spend all day long, if you want to, your spare time doing those things, if you have any spare time, or you can work with someone who's actually a specialist. That's with anything.
Yep.
I don't change my own oil. Doesn't mean I understand the concept about the change oil, but the thing is, do I really want to do it? And do I really want to actually go through the process of getting down?
And time is money for you, kind of.
Time is money. Exactly. It's all about opportunity cost.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh, that's enough. That Mr. David, will you come back when we start to talk about opportunity cost? We'd like to invite you back to just kick around the whole idea of opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We had to come to a point where we realized that what sense does it make me to do certain things? True story. When I was in college, my dad worked for a company and he was able to earn time and a half. What my dad started doing when I was in college is I'm going to earn overtime. Because if I stay there, it's 15 to 30 minutes. I made enough money for someone to cut my grass, which I would spend 2 hours doing.
Oh, Lord have mercy, Jesus. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind spending that amount of money to pay someone to cut my grass.
Mm-hmm.
Time
When I get
freedom.
home, I can spend more time with my family.
Time freedom.
That's
Exactly.
it. That's it. That's
Like I said before, this is something that actually we learn through time, through certain events, and through life experiences.
And I'm just sitting here now and just sort of kind of thinking and reflecting. And you're right, David, about the budget. Until people sit down and determine what they have and what they want to have and create the roadmap to get there, the distance between where they are and where they want to go is just a few steps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's all. Just having the right people to help them. Just a few steps. And those steps then is be consistent.
Consistency.
Hey, consistently, $100 every paycheck. Consistently, $200 every paycheck. Consistently, whatever, consistently. And it might seem like a little bit on the front end. Oh, I'll never get there. But it just sort of reminds me, I used to ask people the question. I said, hey, listen, Leland, I got a job for you. I said, I want you to work for me for a month. I'll give you $1 million today. I'll give you a penny a day, double every day for 30 days. Which is your pleasure?
And
most people would ask for what?
$1 million.
$1 million, of course. That's what most of them would say.
So for those who are listening and don't know the answer to that question, I would just tell you, do the math. And when you do the math, you either need to call Mr. David Jones for financial planning and so he can help you. Yeah. Or you call Lee-Chandler so that we can help you to invest in real estate.
David, real quick, there's something I wanted to know from you. I'm sure when you're talking with people all the time, are you noticing, or what's the biggest hang up that you're seeing with folks? What are you seeing that is the biggest challenge for them personally to get started?
I think what it comes down to is really finding the right time.
Timing, okay.
It's really about timing. And sometimes what you might hear is, I need to get out of debt first. And sometimes they'll tell you they don't even have a plan on how to get out of debt, other than I just got to make these minimum payments.
Minimum?
It's the minimum.
Minimum?
Minimum. And you know where that's going to get you, right?
Nowhere fast.
The idea of
Nowhere fast.
minimum payment on a $10,000 credit card? Bill?
In there. Yeah.
And like I said before, what we don't know, we don't know. But the thing is that it will either hurt you or it could even kill you. It can actually really keep you from other opportunities. So that's why I said conversation is really going to be really what needs to take place, and actually from the conversation come up with a plan.
And if your long-term goal is to leave a legacy, the question then is, what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're going through something right now that you don't want your kids to have to go through or experience, now's the time to do something about it. The only thing we have is actually today. And I heard that from a wise person this not too long ago. That's all we have is today.
Today. That's it.
Whew. Whew. As we end the discussion today, Hank, can you read the quote that you read earlier today real quick? That was perfect.
You would do that. You would do that. What? The one that says, never wait for a perfect moment?
Yep.
Okay. Never wait for a perfect moment. Just take a moment and make it perfect.
And then the one by the Dalai Lama as well.
Oh, the one.
Sorry.
You're going to ask me about the Dalai Lama.
And so as Hank's finding that, just so for those who are listening, if you're wondering, if you're looking for things that are outside of real estate, for example, you want to prepare that legacy, reach out to David. Okay, reach out to David, call him, email him. David, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Best way to reach me is actually my cell number, and that number is area code 317-598-0314. And I'm also on Facebook as David C. Jones, so you can inbox me through Facebook as well.
Awesome. So no need to wait, no need to feel afraid. Figure out where you are and do what you can with what you have.
Oh, man.
Absolutely. We need to cast down our buckets from where we are, and that's from Booker T. Washington.
Man, I cannot find Dalai Lama.
Okay, I'll try my best. The quote that Hank had earlier. Okay, cool.
I found it. I apologize, guys. This is a quote from the Dalai Lama. He says, "There are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is called tomorrow. Today is the right day for love, belief, do, and mostly live."
Awesome.
Well said.
Well said.
Excellent.
And David, where can they reach you again?
My mobile number is area code 317-598-0314. And I'm on Facebook as David C. Jones as well. And you can send an instant message to me also.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening, and we'll chat with you guys later.
Thank you. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, David. This has been thrilling for me, sir.